PROMIS software is a revolutionary computer program developed in the 1970s by a former NSA programmer and engineer, Bill Hamilton. In terms of computer programs, it represents the universal translator of Star Trek. PROMIS stands for Prosecutor's Management Information System, is able to read and integrate any number of different computer programs or databases simultaneously, regardless of language or operating system. According to Bill Hamilton, the inventor, Edwin Meese, Reagan's Attorney General, along with Dr. Earl Bryan and others, stole the amazing software, modified it, installing a trapdoor into that would allow those who knew of it to access the program in other computers, and then sold the software overseas to foreign intelligence agencies. Bill Hamilton knew his software had been stolen when requests for tech support came in from people he hadn't sold it to. The Israeli Mossad, under Rafi Eitan, again modified the software and sold it throughout the Middle East using British publishing magnate Robert Maxwell as a cutout. The revolutionary software allowed almost anyone with the trapdoor code to enter every database in every computer in every language at will, simultaneously. This ability represents perfect information gathering technology that is undetectable, the ultimate prize of every intelligence agency in the world. The CIA, through GE Aerospace in Herndon, Virginia, GAO contract number 82F624620. The FBI and the NSA modified the backdoor, but more importantly had enhanced the ultimate program with artificial intelligence, or AI. The program, which came to be called other names such as SMART, had originally been capable of automatically and secretly drawing any information from any computer and all computers connected to the Internet. The contractor that added the artificial intelligence component, GE Aerospace, was purchased by Martin Marietta, which merged with Lockheed Martin, the largest defense and aerospace contractor in the world. Ed Meese was not the only one who recognized the potential promise in PROMIS. Democrats had their own moves. Jackson Stevens is a presidential kingmaker, a lifelong supporter of George Bush, and Annapolis roommate of Jimmy Carter. The billionaire Stevens' firm, Systematics, later Axicom, had mated the illegal software with banking software. In the late 70s and 80s, Systematics handled roughly 70% of all electronic banking systems in the U.S. Stevens teamed with Wortham Bank, Lippo Group, and BCCI, the Drug Intelligence Bank, to penetrate every banking system in the world. PROMIS software could be used to influence and predict financial markets worldwide. When Clinton was out of funds during his campaign, it was Jackson Stevens that loaned him $3 million to keep it going. Herbert Pug Winnocour, CEO of DynCorp from 1989 to 1997, is a PhD mathematician from Harvard, where the mathematical breakthroughs using block modeling gave rise to artificial intelligence. In the 60s, Winnocour did research for the DoD on the causes of inner-city unrest in the wake of the 1967 Detroit riots. DynCorp was heavily involved in the evolution of PROMIS software. Winnocour is a member of the board of the Harvard Endowment, which is not a benevolent university fund, but an aggressive predatory investor with $19 billion in assets invested in a hub-subsidized housing, high-tech defense operations, and George W. Bush's failing oil company, Harken Energy. The Harvard Endowment saw its holdings skyrocket in the last decade, making 33% in 1999. That was the same year HUD announced a manual adjustment to reconcile a $59 billion accounting shortfall between its accounts and the U.S. Treasury account. Geomatics is a company at the heart of the Canadian space program and associated with Lockheed Martin. Geomatics uses remote sensing from space to locate natural resources such as oil, precious minerals, and other commodities. In the commodities market of the world, this kind of perfect information is the ultimate tool to predicting and controlling markets. Remote sensing can closely estimate the size of harvests of agricultural commodities such as coffee or oranges. Perfect information on the size of the orange harvest translates potentially to millions of dollars in the U.S. commodity markets alone. Exploration for oil and gas can be very expensive, but advances in imaging technology, GPS global positioning systems, and remote sensing technologies have advanced light years over the last few decades. This situation is custom-made for enhanced PROMIS software with backdoor technology. What better way to map and inventory the world's resources but by making each nation pay for it? PROMIS software makes it possible to compile a worldwide database on every marketable natural resource. Artificial intelligence enhanced PROMIS-based programs would be the perfect setup to make billions of dollars in profits by manipulating the futures trade in, for example, a rare metal like tungsten, or exploiting a sudden surge in the price of gold and platinum. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police, RCMP, were sold PROMIS software to use in their intelligence gathering operations, and began to suspect that their copies may have been altered, and possibly all of their files were transparent and had been so for some time. The RCMP had been given their version of PROMIS by the Canadian Security and Intelligence Services, CSIS, which was created with the assistance and direction of the CIA. RCMP investigators stated that they and the CSIS had a rivalry similar to the one between the CIA and FBI, and questioned whether any intelligence agency created by the CIA could be completely loyal to its native country. They further stated that they knew that the NSA had compromised their communications equipment. The Canadians put out a report that friendly nations were stealing sensitive technology, particularly related to aerospace, biotechnology, chemicals, communications, information technology, mining and metallurgy, nuclear energy, oil and gas, and the environment. The doctored versions of PROMIS software were acquired from both Robert Maxwell and Dr. Earl Bryan. Bryan is a medical doctor who founded Hadron and had been involved in shady dealings with firms connected with disease research, cytology, and biotechnology. Hadron is at the heart of the U.S. government operations involving biowarfare and vaccines. Ari Ben Menashe is Israel's top spy, who in reports was linked to Iran-Contra scandal and the October surprise that led to Ronald Reagan's election in 1980. PROMIS software is described in his book, Prophets of War. The inventor of PROMIS software hired Army CID investigator Bill McCoy to investigate the theft, but the famed investigator, who had broken many of the Army's biggest cases, was found dead of a heart attack. Within 48 hours of his death, McCoy's body was cremated, and 2 days later all of his files, furniture, and personal belongings had been removed from his home. His home was then painted and sanitized. The PROMIS saga leads to more than a dozen deaths, many of which share the same pattern. Within 48 hours of death, the body is cremated, residences are sanitized, and all records disappear. From Rupert Murdoch.